soon as I get rid of this. Jim, how are you? How are you? We won't be joined by Kevin Lamontagne, CFO today. He's having surgery, so I'll talk about that. Okay.
Not that he's having started.
Oh, already, Nate. What's that? You're
Good.
good? Okay. Like to call the March 23rd, 2026 meeting of the County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency to order. Tim, could you do a roll call, please?
Nick Canelli,
Present.
Pat Carroll, absent excused, Marilyn Chesbro.
Here.
Mark Greco.
Here.
Peter Clark.
Here.
And so I'm here, and Gary Standard.
Present.
Report.
Thank you. And Austin, can you go over staff and guests, please?
Sure can. In terms of staff and guests, we have in attendance Austin Wheelock, CEO of the County of Oswego IDA. Kevin Lamontagne, CFO, is excused today. We also have Kevin Caracoli, General Counsel for the IDA. Nate Evans, staff from Operations Oswego County. We have a law intern here visiting Adam Humphrey, I believe his name. And then we also have a guest, Jim Cannon.
What about online?
We also, yes, thank you. So joining us online at this time, we have Bill Perrine from CNS Companies. He's the project engineer on the Oswego County Industrial Park expansion.
Okay.
We'll also be joined later in the meeting with a representative from Nexam Solar.
Okay, great. First item on the, thank you, everybody. First item on the agenda is the minutes from the last meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those, I hope.
I make a motion to approve.
Tricia,
Well, second.
any comments, questions? Seconded by Mel there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Notice the meeting was in the Pale Times on March 10th. Financial report, Austin.
Yeah, so I will do this. So just the one thing I wanted to bring to your attention, if you flip through to the first page of the P&L, which shows August 25 through February 2026. There was a significant jump from the last month. We had several projects that closed. So ASD Baldwin is closed. Dax Hotel, the Lake Ontario Real Estate Holding Company, that's a Hotel project. Novellis and Travery. We are sitting right now pretty well compared to last year at this time. We fully anticipate being around where our projected numbers were going to be for the year. And we still have several projects that have been recently approved that we're waiting on, and we anticipate will happen by July 31st. But no, things are about where we expected them to be. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just like I said, sometimes we can't really determine when things will close, and so. But a bunch of them did happen over the month of February, and that happens typically because with the taxable status date of March 1st, a lot of projects that want to have the first year of pilot or benefits to be the following year has to happen by March 1 for that. So that was why some of that happened, but we have several more that we anticipate before July 31.
Okay. Any questions on that? Any other questions on the financials? Motion to approve the financials.
Second.
Gary and Mark. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Oswego County Industrial Park expansion updates. Bill.
Yeah, Bill's taking it. Yeah, I'll just say, just for everybody who's here and that is watching from home, is that we're joined by Bill Perrine from CNS Engineers. He's the project engineer, just to give an update on the Oswego County Industrial Park expansion and sort of where we're going to be going in the next couple months. So I'll turn it over to Bill. There you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Testing audio. You hear me okay?
Good.
Okay.
And I am going to share my screen. Everybody see my screen okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And then one more thing to confirm. Can you see my cursor? Just want to confirm that as I'm talking through this.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So as Austin mentioned, just an update. We've been working for many years on this project in Phoenix, New York, town of Schuylkill, where we are on the park. I'm going to show you some color renderings that we prepared for the IDA last year. Just give you an idea of what the park could look like at full build out. For point of reference, this is the existing park loop down here in the lower right-hand corner and the EJ facility. We're constructing a roadway through and all utilities to service the park. Here's a view looking back the other way. It's the EJ facility in the top of your screen in the existing park. Again, just conceptual. In plan view, this is a drawing that we prepared for one of the agency approvals, showing again what the park could potentially look like. It's the EJ facility and connection point. The scope of this particular project is more or less the roadway and public utilities to service the project that you see on the screen. This roadway would be built in accordance with DOT specs and turned over to Oswego County DOT. I'd like to go through just a couple project milestones on kind of where we are from a high level on this project. So we are at 100% design on plans and specs. We're working through agency approvals right now. As I mentioned, the roadways are going to be built to county DOT spec. We're going to be submitting a highway work permit to the county. I've confirmed that all fees are waived. And the nice thing to note is that this is a non-New York State DOT review because it is a county highway. It makes things a little more streamlined and simpler. We have concurrence from the county and state DOT on not having to do traffic mitigation at this time. They agree with our traffic impact study to really evaluate the park when it's roughly 50% further build out. So no mitigation at the onset, which is nice. Sanitary sewers, final design is complete. On the public water infrastructure, that is being reviewed by Oswego County Department of Health and New York State Department of Health. We got review comments a few weeks ago and we submitted our second submission. So we hope to wrap that up soon. Water and sewer districts, that is the district mechanism for purposes of assessment and taxing. We are hoping to seek approval at the April 14th Town of Schuylkill Town Board meeting. This project involves United States Fish and Wildlife Service is what that acronym stands for. We received our concurrence letter with no impact or mitigation further other than tree clearing on site, which is about an acre of tree clearing. And my understanding is that is underway now. New York State DEC, there's some wetlands throughout the property. We received our permit last year with a jurisdictional determination letter, but the DEC has jurisdiction over it, and that is good for 5 years. Our project improvements will be worked in around those wetlands. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit is also involved because of the wetlands and the protected stream on site. We expect that permit in a few weeks. They are currently moving over to a new format. It happened on March 15th. We were hoping to have the permit in hand, but again, we expect it in a few weeks. And then the EDA, some of the federal funding associated with the project, our site certification form was submitted for approval a few weeks ago. Any questions so far?
Doing great, Bill.
Kind of outline some next steps of where we're going in the next month or two. We have to create a right-of-way with the Town of Schuylkill Planning Board. I've started pulling that together. I'm going to try to target to be on their April meeting. Again, this is not for prospective lots in the park yet. This is strictly to create the road right-of-way. One thing to note is we were creating roughly a half-acre lot for National Grid substation located south of the CSX Railroad that goes through the site. I can show people on a map where that is. The EDA with the federal funding, we need their authorization to go out to bid. So we're waiting their completion of their review. They have our specs in hand. Empire State Development and Fast New York, MWB participation goals. We need to work through that. We have some work to do on the sewers with the Village of Phoenix, seeking capacity letters and forms from them. So that's ongoing.
I'll just
National
say
Grid.
one thing, Bill, I was going to state, we've had conversations with the village, and they've just said as soon as the updated IMA is signed that they'll provide that. They just, until they have that, he's holding off. So anyway.
Okay.
Very soon, though.
Appreciate that, Ed. National Grid, there will be natural gas and electric throughout the park. We are working with both of those teams, and we expect service orders and costs in the near future. One particular thing with that is we need to finalize the substation cost. CNS had put together a very conservative number, which you're gonna see on the next slide. Probably 3-4 years ago, and we really want to tighten that down because it's a big component of the project. I want to note that electrical and telecom duct bank is in our design document, so that will be constructed by the prime contractor, not by National Grid, throughout the park, service future tenants. And then just from schedule, we hope to be out to bid in April and construction start in May or June. Some financials, target some of the available funding that we have for the project. So just a breakdown that you can see on your screen. We did receive an incentive grant, 2 incentive grants from National Grid, both for construction and design. Brings our total up to 13.7 million. The engineer's estimate, just a tick over, but the one thing I want to note is we have 5.4 million in there for the substation, which again, we feel is very conservative. Tightening that number down should bring us within budget. And that's what I've got for an update. Happy to answer any questions, comments. Can show people things on the map if they want to know where things are located.
Bill, could you bring that map up? I think it would be helpful just for people to see, the site proper and then also the 20-acre site that, the grid infrastructure would be on.
So the IDA controls about 20 acres south of the CS6 railroad, which moves left to right across the bottom of your screen. The substation is a half-acre parcel right next to Harris Road in this lower corner. They will bring power across the railroad tracks, and then we will bring service, duct bank, and telecom through the park.
Have we got permission from CSX to go across the railroad tracks already, or?
So they will handle any additional permitting. There is an overhead line that goes over the tracks already, which is a huge help to us. I believe they will treat it as an upgrade versus a new crossing.
Right.
Very good.
And the natural gas, where does that come in from? So there's a pipe that goes through the property, I thought, wasn't there?
Well,
On
there's
the east,
yeah, so this site is served from out on 264. It actually comes into the existing park and that would be extended into this site.
Okay.
and as part of that, National Grid wants to upgrade their gas main in the existing park to an 8-inch. To
This
service
is also
the
why
park.
our numbers are at a little over 14 million. Yeah, so.
So we're operating the natural gas for the existing park in addition to supplying natural gas to this park.
Correct. They said that the existing gas there, it's about near its limits and if there's gonna be substantial new stuff here, they wanted to bring in a new line. Reinforced line.
Sure.
The new line folks will be around the south side of the existing park. Oh, I believe they will be tying in services for existing tenants. I don't have confirmation what will happen with the north side of the loop. I assume they will stay as is today.
Any other questions? Thanks for the update. Bill, could you just, in terms of, based on where, obviously we get to start in June, which is, I think, where we're really targeting right now, I think, late May, early June. What is the anticipated construction completion, at least for the industrial park port, the parts that are non-National Grid related? What is your anticipation for those projects?
Just pulling up my schedule. If we had a start, like let's say June 1, we were anticipating being substantially complete this fall with likely restoration and maybe some grid work carrying over into the spring of 2027.
Yeah, so we have a lot of cushion time. I mean, at least with EDA, we have them through, I believe, September of 2027 for their funding. State funding is more flexible than that in terms of, the timing and things like that. The one thing that's a little bit of a challenge, but it's we're working through it with Grid, is that just their lead times on things they work at their own speed. they do their own permitting, they do their own stuff, and, you know, so we're kind of just working with them and to make that happen, but, you know, worst case, everything else is built, and then the last thing we're doing is waiting for their new substation to connect into. It's not gonna slow anything else down.
Now, where is the substation?
Yeah, I can show you under here. Right there in that little box.
Uh,
This is a 20 acre, this is a 20 acre lot, doesn't show all of it there, but that's a 20 acre lot that is also with this. We don't have industrial development being shown on that lot because we're actually holding that, and keeping that for any future mitigation that we may need to do on that site. So if any of the wetlands there need to potentially be modified in the future based on any specific businesses, we can use that to offset with property that we already have that's part of the same wetlands. They prefer to have that done much better than in some other locations.
That's how it should be. Close. Not 8 miles down the road to another.
We buy some land out of Nugget County.
I know, unless you can go down the road that way.
Any other questions? Anybody have comments? Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.
I'll jump off. You guys all set?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Bill.
Okay. All right,
Very
thank you.
nice.
Okay. What do we think? Everybody happy?
Yep.
Seems like we're moving along at a good pace here.
Mhm.
Things are on track.
Yep.
Okay.
It's nice to see visuals now,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we've got all of our bid stuff done. I mean, a couple of these other little check marks, we're gonna be going up to bid. Yeah, project. So,
And I know we talked about this before, but who's helping to manage kind of the amount of monies that you've gotten and all the different contract stuff? Do you guys have somebody in mind for that?
in terms of the grant administration side, we're actually working through that internally right now on our end. To be able to do that, both Nate, Karen, Kevin are working on that as well as myself. We are looking potentially to utilize, not on the grant administration side, but on the construction inspection side and other things like that. You know, that's a professional service that's outside of sort of the scope of the project, but it could still be an eligible for reimbursement through the ESD Pass New York. We're going to be looking to do that as well. Not quite sure exactly where that'll go yet, but we'll definitely have it in mind.
So the RFP process, who does a review for those once you guys put those things out to bid?
So we will be doing that along with engineers, correct?
So you'll do that with CNS?
Yeah, and we have to follow a very specific process because of it being a public works process. So sealed bids, you know, lowest bid and all those kinds of things. So we have a very specific process. We also have to follow the EDA's process for it because they have $2.5 million into it. So they have, you know, say and some influence in that process as well.
And CNS, just for public, will not be bidding on this project. It's outside their wheelhouse stuff. There's not a conflict with that company being our partners throughout that bid review
On the-
process.
yeah.
You still have to do the
MWBE.
MWBE, because I thought with federal money involved, doesn't that?
It's for the state money.
No, I know, but when we had at the city of Oswego, we had a DRI project. We were not, because of the federal money involved, you were not able to allow, essentially everything went to the federal, and the state did not require it to be minority owned. I don't know that, but that was a rule for the fund, we had a TAF grant.
I think with this particular project, because the funding, even though let me say this correctly, it's viewed as two separate projects.
Okay.
There's the public infrastructure piece, and then there's the state side of it, and the public infrastructure is being paid for by EDA. So the road, for example, ESD money is not, there's not a mixture of monies there, they're separate. So that's how EDA looks at this, and so that's how the state looks at it. So their MWBE piece applies to the $8.1 million, not to the overall project budget.
And the reason we're still trying to find the exact target number is we're waiting to get the final numbers from grid related to the substation cost, because that being a sole source project that only they can do, that will be backed out of whatever that final dollar number. And we have a pretty good idea. I don't want to say it right now because it's not in writing yet, but we have a pretty good idea, and it's going to be lower than the number that Bill provided. But You know, so I'm very confident in terms of where our total project cost is. It will be,
Yeah.
we're not gonna be coming back and asking for additional dollars.
That's good. Thank you.
Great. Anything else related to the,
Yeah, I just want to say, so the one project that we have started that, you know, a little bit of contractor work down there. This was a separate project that you guys had authorized us to go with the lowest qualified bid at our last meeting was the tree cutting project. And I wanted to let you know, based on our last meeting, the IDA, based on that process, we awarded the project to Lindsley Excavating at a cost of $12,750. So it was substantially a small project in the grand scheme of things. So we followed all of our processes related to that in terms of soliciting bids. I think we had what, 4 or 5?
We had 5 bids, and just for kind of public record, there was one bid that was actually lower than Lindsley, but we deemed that would be not qualified.
Right.
Contractor. They just did not have the necessary equipment and means to actually do the tree clearing. So Lindsley was the lowest qualified bid that came.
Right. Yep. And we were very careful and detailed to make sure they get the work done by March 31st, because it doesn't matter if you're the lowest bid if you can't get it done by then, because we're waiting. So yeah, they actually started last week down there and had it mobilized. Yeah. I mean, we're not talking a lot of trees here. It's a little less than about approximately about 1 acre of trees. And they're very qualified to do that. They're located right down there in the town of Scribble line down there, and so they're local. So got pretty good.
it's gonna be a bunch of money. Yes. Okay, anything else on the industrial park? Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Nate. Number 5, solar projects.
Yeah, so in front of you here, in your packet anyway, is a proposed solar generation battery energy storage system financial assistance policy. So over the last couple of meetings, in-house, we've done significant research on what other IDAs and other communities are doing, specifically related to battery energy storage systems. We were looking at what communities are charging in terms of for those types of projects, what types of benefits they're providing, the terms, all of that. And so what we have proposed, and so in yellow is really the only changes on your document here, is looking at a $1,500 per AC megawatt of battery energy storage. That would also then have a 2% escalator similar to solar projects, and would have a similar length of 20 years. The other things that we had looked at doing is we are adding to our policy for both solar projects as well as battery energy storage, a payment in lieu of sales tax, which would be equal to 20 or 50% of whatever the sales tax exemption amount is, and then that would be invoiced in the year after those benefits are taken. That way it's based off of the New York State SB 340 form. We also changed that solar generation and battery energy storage projects will not be granted going forward any mortgage recording tax exemptions. That was something that had been discussed at the IDA for a while and then been memorialized in the policy. And then the last sort of change that we put in is that any projects approved by the agency, if there's any changes related to revisions after approval or consent actions for transfer of ownership or other things, will be they are not entitled to close or be conferred without express written consent of the agency, as well as paying additional agency fees and legal costs. So that's something we've seen with these projects, is that there's typically going to be some sort of action after approval, either an ownership transfer or a request for other things to change it. And we wanted to put in here in writing that the projects will not be entitled to those changes. That it's required to pay additional fees related to it, as well as get the express written consent of the agency.
So they have to do that for the full term of the pilot.
If anytime during that pilot agreement, they come back and ask us, I mean, it could happen before it closes. So if you take an action and you approve a project, but it hasn't closed, and they come and they want to change something before closure, they have to come back and request. after approval or after closure and the project is in place, they have to come back and ask for that request. It's not, none of these are by rights. They're not entitled to any of those benefits. They have to come back to you.
Okay, so basically in a 20-year pilot will earn 20,000 because they'll probably change it every year.
Well, I don't know about that, but
No, I-
if they change it at least once, I mean.
Oh, more than once generally, I hear.
We've seen consistently across projects that, you know, at least one change.
Minimally.
Are we gonna be discussing this in executive session at all?
If you would like to enter into an executive session, to discuss it, we could do that, but I would say then we can't take any action to approve it until after that takes place. So, I mean, we could table this to any approvals that take place after executive session,
Okay, because I have some thoughts.
but I guess if that's the
I don't know if they
case,
should be
then
aired.
you're probably pushing a couple things then, because the proposed policy here would be applicable to the next project on the Phoenix Expo Solar. So,
So let's table this and the Phoenix until after executive session, okay? And we'll move on to number 7 for now.
so Brew Properties 481 LLC, Adventure at Bird Sports LLC. Let me give a quick rundown of the project first, and then we'll go into the 2 different actions being requested to be taken today. So this project is the development of an indoor sports complex at the 27.8 acre site of the former soccer building. Where is that? At 80 Dutch Ridge Road in the town of Oswego. The project would be the renovation of the existing 9,000 plus square foot building there on the site and the construction of a new 120,000 square foot indoor sports complex. The project would provide year-round space for multiple sporting events, training, and educational opportunities. Those sporting events could include tournaments and other items. Project. Okay. I would just tell her we're going to wait. Okay. So the project will provide year-round space for multiple sporting events, training, and educational opportunities. As I said, the project is anticipated to create 16 full-time and 13 part-time jobs at full build-out. The project is estimated to have a project cost in phase 1 of $3.7 million. Those final numbers are still coming in, so that number could potentially change. But you're not looking at any sort of value of benefit at this point, just determining the project's eligibility and setting a public hearing. The project is eligible for IDA benefits due to 1 being adjacent to multiple distressed census tracts in the city of Oswego. 2 being a significant tourism destination and driver, bringing visitors from all over New York State, stay in local hotels and spend money locally. And 3, providing a service that is not generally available in the local market. So when projects have any, this is in the IDA application, a project that derives more than 33% of its income from retail services. It is required to have a exemption to be then qualify for benefits. So in this case, this project meets 3 of those criteria for that. So I wanted to bring that to your.
How many does it have to meet?
Just 1. Just has to meet 1, but
It'll basically be anything in Oswego.
what's that?
Any business in Oswego would qualify then,
Potentially.
theoretically,
Based on distressed being
based on the.
within or adjacent to a distressed census tract. But that doesn't mean that we give a pilot to every business.
No.
So that is the project. You know, they're looking to so Rich Burritt is the sort of the primary owner of the LLCs associated with this. You know, it seems like it's a very good project for the area. Rich has already put together floor plans and sort of like I said, he has those initial estimates on cost. I know he's also and Kevin, you know, he's gone to the town of Scriba to start the site plan review process. I believe he did that mid-March.
There's a public hearing scheduled for next month, the 8th of April. And that's going through 239 review. Just submitted the information within the last couple of days. So, yeah.
Is anything being used in it right now or it's just vacant?
There is, currently, spaces being leased to City BOCES for use in one of their programs. I believe there might be a couple other, uses that happen there. But that's the main one that I'm aware of, is City BOCES utilizes, some of the space in that 9,000 square foot building. He's currently talking to them potentially about, either, renewing or looking at, new space for them. So, it's not something that, it's not, I will say it's not built into this project in terms of, the jobs and things associated with that, but,
Has he already acquired the property from Dunsmore?
Under contract.
yeah, it's under contract to be closed by July 1.
What's the timeframe? That guesstimate on this.
So
It's aggressive.
it's rich, so he wants to, his
What,
goal
not
is to
yesterday?
have it done at the end of the year. I don't know if he'll be able to do that, but he would like to, he'd like to be under construction, by the time where he acquires the property, so by July 1, he'd like to be in construction.
Wow.
Not sure if that will take place, but it's Rich. Rich always pushes the boundary in terms of how quickly.
I'm assuming he's not doing another dome, right? Is he doing some better?
No, it's like
Parking type structure.
pre-engineered building, large steel I-beams, large span spaces. I mean, we're talking a big building. It's be like 240 feet by 500 feet in multiple fields.
High ceilings.
120,000 square feet. It's gonna be a very large building.
High ceilings.
Basketball, soccer, lacrosse inside.
Yep. Yeah.
Batting cages.
Yeah.
So it's,
Golf simulator.
and his plan is to, attract, different, indoor sports tournaments from across the state and, also do training, specialized training, all sorts of other things here. So we really see this as something that's going to be bringing people from Rochester, Albany, Buffalo, and beyond to the Oswego area. So similar to what's taking place over at Legends, but with an indoor sports facility.
So, a couple of, 10 years ago now, the city of Oswego, got an Empire State Development grant to study the need for a space kind of like this. At the time, the city was looking at potentially building it themselves. And as part of that, we put together an economic needs analysis essentially, and it came back with a substantial need and a huge amount of demand for this type of programming within Oswego County. And so right now, as a dad of somebody who we drive down to Jones Road twice a week, pretty much at this point, having something like that, I think would be a huge. It'll open up demand all the way up north into Jefferson County, and I think that even pulling out of, like you said, all around the region. So I think it's a huge demand, huge need for it, and I'm excited to see it.
There isn't really a facility like this of this size, even going down to Jones Road and others. It's just this, it's big, it'd be bigger than.
Used to be a Sports Star 2000 or something over in East Syracuse. Reminds me of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just drove by it this morning.
Yeah.
And it's under some repair or renovation.
Yeah, they're doing something to it, but it was years ago and it was just full.
But it's not that big.
Yeah,
Not as big.
not as big as, but
No,
yeah.
This is big. It'll be a big facility. So, anyway, it's gonna be, a strong project, for multiple reasons. And, support some of the other, tourism and hospitality investments being made in the area.
The tourism benefits alone are huge.
Yeah.
For this.
Mhm.
I mean, looking at what the softball, baseball fields draw in, this is a year-round facility that.
Well, this is what we should invest in is for the kids, do something, be active. And go.
And I don't want to just say it's going to bring in people from the outside. It's going to have significant local benefits for youth sports and other athletics and, all ages, really. That's what, Rich said to us. It's not a facility just for kids, it's for all ages. So.
Yeah, there will be a lot of, we've been,
There'd be adult leagues.
there'll be all sorts of opportunities too for healthy outcomes and things like that. I always talk about partnering with some of the other local agencies and things like that. I think that, and to be clear, my understanding, Austin, is that there's no other government money in this. There's no other taxpayer money.
There is no grant funding or anything else in this project to our knowledge. Potentially could be in later phases, but for this phase of getting the building built and, the fields done and other things like that, there's no grant funding. And based on the aggressive schedule he has, I don't think that he could you can apply and get it approved in time to be able to support that. So this would be the way to support this project.
So what we're looking for here is, an initial resolution is all, right?
Yeah,
We need a waiver for Kevin?
correct. I think we need to do that. I would do that first. Yeah, but Barclay Damon, our bond counsel has provided an initial resolution for the project that we have here. But yeah, I think we need to.
Kevin, can you explain the conflict?
Happy to address that, and we've seen from time to time, either with my office or with Barclay Damon, certain project developers have been retained by either one of our firms to handle some of this work. I've known the Burrett family for better part of 30 years. We're next door neighbors. Don't usually talk about my clients, but in this case, I do legal work for them. Chris, Rich's father before that, and Rich, of course. He approached me to ask if I could assist with this, and said, I'll make the ask, but I do have a client that you're asking benefits for, and that's the IDA. I've also been representing the IDA for a number of years. So I guess the one thing I would add is that we do have special counsel, the IDA, through Barclay Damon. So there's generally a division of labor or checks and balances, in that regard. That all having been said, I don't see this as a very controversial project. I'm not aware of any controversy in the siting of it. No one stepped forward to oppose it. It was a sports complex initially. It's gone through a pretty rigorous environmental and planning review, albeit, nearly 25 years ago, 26 years ago, when it was first cited. So I'm asking for that consideration of the waiver. Certainly understand if you've got concerns, but happy to answer any questions too.
Anybody got any questions before?
Yeah.
We want to make sure we bring it to the light of day, and
Let's be transparent about it all.
and typically related to all the pilot documents, a lot of the majority of the things are being done by the bond counsel, and Kevin's has a limited scope in terms of that.
You need a motion for that?
Yes, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Tricia. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries for the waiver. Now I need a motion for the initial resolution.
Yeah, let me just state that, so the motion, the resolution is determining that the acquisition, construction, reconstruction, renovation, equipping of a certain facility at the request of the real estate holding company and operating company constitutes a project, and describing the financial assistance requested in connection therewith, and authorizing a public hearing. So one, determining the project is eligible, and two, that you are setting the ability for the IDA to set a public hearing. I do want to say that we do want to make sure, as you know, we try not to get in front of the town in terms of process. So understanding the town is going to have a public hearing. Kevin, do you anticipate that the project will be fully approved in the month of April by the town?
There is a possibility. They typically and historically don't approve the night of a public hearing, but they do have second meeting that month, 2 weeks later, that may result in that approval.
So we may have to wait to have a public hearing until approval by the town, but we'll play it by ear a little bit as things go. Do you know what the date of that public hearing, or the not public hearing?
Second meeting is,
second meeting.
so 2 weeks later, I think it's the 22nd. The 8th, 15th, 22nd.
So the IDA's meeting is the 29th, so that would be after full approval. It's just the issue being, we probably would schedule a public hearing time after the 22nd.
We'll have a fairly good sense of it after the public hearing on the 8th.
Okay. So we'll
that would give us time to advertise.
And
correct.
what they're requesting from us is pilot benefits, correct?
They're requesting the benefits that are available through the IDA, being a pilot agreement, a sales and use tax exemption, and a mortgage recording tax exemption. So the three benefits associated with a pilot agreement, which the value and whatever those benefits has not been determined yet. Where, like I said, at this time, we're just looking at the
The structure of the pilot has not been discussed or determined at this point.
We have not had that formal conversation.
I'll make a motion to approve the initial resolution as outlined by Austin.
Tricia, Mark? Any questions? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. ESD Fast New York Track B application.
Actually, turn this one over to Nate to talk about.
Yeah, so we, mid-fall, 2025, we engaged in a conversation with Empire State Development. And Mike Torney, who, now owns the entire sort of, former Miller plant, Addis, his warehouse as well. And we engaged in a conversation with Empire State Development about looking at that site in its entirety, not only what Mike Torney owns, but the 73 acres that's just due north of that, and the wastewater treatment plant property as well, which is 142 acres. And as the state and certainly as we continue to kind of evaluate properties that are available to us, are they ready for expansion, growth opportunities that are forthcoming? So at their encouraging, we are looking to submit what's called a track B application. Currently, we have a track C with the E is more on the sort of evaluation side of what do you currently have there, and what would it take to improve what you currently have there? So think of things like electricity, water, sewer, those types of infrastructure items. And what do you currently have available to you? And if you were to expand things out, grow, do whatever it is with that property, what would it take to improve those things? And so a track B application helps you to fund those types of stuff. Track B, you're eligible up to $1 million in terms of funding. And so, which is great, we would have to put in half of it, just like any sort of state opportunity.
Not we in per se.
Not we,
but
I was just about.
It has to be matched.
Yeah.
Whatever dollars the state puts in have to be
Yeah.
matched. And it could be the property owner, it could be the IDA, it could be National Grid, it could be multiple entities.
And
50% match or 100%? 50%?
50%,
Okay,
yeah.
so 500,000.
Yeah. So, and we, we're starting to kind of go through a little bit of that sort of idea of what actually it might cost to do things like that. We did engage CMS in sort of a back of the napkin, sort of like, if we were to kind of conduct such study, what might such study kind of cost? And we asked them to kind of break things out in various things. Rail, I mean, there's a whole bunch of assets down in that area, and a lot of property that's associated with that entire area, the former Miller Brewing Complex, if you will.
Did they say the price was $999,999?
Well, just so happens they came up with a slate of projects that was up there, but we also said we don't need all those things to be done.
We asked them to provide, not just one number, but the a la carte, right? So what would it be for different sections of what we would like to? So what we're asking for from the IDA today is authorization to submit a letter of intent, which simply just indicates we're intending to put forth a track B application. It doesn't commit the IDA to actually doing the application, and even an application doesn't commit the IDA to actually accepting funds or anything. It's just simply to start the process forward. I think we all can agree that we have assets down there that we probably would like to use someday in terms of property. We need wetland delineations down there, especially on the wastewater treatment plant side of it. We know that parts of it are west for sure, but what do we have in terms of available property? What do we have along Owens Road that is suitable? Things were sort of cut off and differently once Miller shut down and that wastewater treatment plant was shut down. So we don't have a clear understanding of exactly what available utilities are available to us down there. So I think it would be healthy for us to kind of go through that exercise and kind of see what's up.
And I think getting back to why are we the ones submitting, not like Tormy, the state strongly recommends that public entities or not-for-profit economic development organizations submit these. And we will have to get some sort of documentation signed by Mike Tormy to be a part of it. But like I said, at this point, it's just a letter of intent, and then that'll tell us the next steps for this. We've gone through this process before with the track C. I mean, said it's a pretty quick and easy process related to the first step, and then obviously there'll be a checklist and other things required for a full, full submission. And I also want to be clear that we haven't decided on any engineering firms at this point. We only, since CNS Companies has done other work there related to when Sunoco was there and Addis, they have a pretty good understanding of that site. And we just asked them, can you just let us know ballpark what some of these things would cost so that we at least know, what we should be expecting that, a study like this to cost. And then obviously we'll follow all the procurement policies as well as Empire State Development if and when funding is awarded.
And to be clear as well, Mark Army is a partner on this process. He is not asking us to fund the entire track B, funding if it came to fruition. We've been very clear back to him that we're not interested in funding all of it too, because he will obviously have some benefit from that process.
Talk about a pro rata share based on acreage or something like that, or?
Some of it will be based upon, so for example, let me give you a good example. If rail was included, we don't really have much to do with the rail there. He has most of that rail yard. So if he wanted some review of that rail yard in terms of improvements, that would be things that would be kind of his portion of that, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of what we would like, wetland delineations, the wastewater treatment plant would be, would be all right, so there'd be that sort of.
There is there's potential of them looking at, one of the more expensive potential parts of this could be having New York ISO, the independent service operator, look at the 115 kV line and what needs to be done to provide more power to that. That would be beneficial to us and him. So I think it's one of those where, we're going to ultimately look and say, hey, what makes sense for us? What makes sense for you? What can we put together to get to where we need to be?
Because we know he has two twin 10 megawatt banks down there. What would it take to be 40, 50 megawatts, right? What's available to that? Well, you have to engage in the New York State to actually determine what actually could feed and the potential feed for power down there. So.
Okay. So you're looking for authorization to submit a letter of intent.
On behalf of the IDA for the entire site. Yeah.
Again, it's a not committal. If the only thing you're committing to is a physical piece of paper right now that says we're intending to apply for a track B.
I'll make that motion.
I just, hold on, I have more questions on this. But so just to be clear, it's not costing us anything right now.
No.
And again, this is regional. We already did something on that water plant, right? Didn't we have somebody look at that a while back already? So I'm just curious as to why we need to redo all this stuff right now. When, I mean, you said you got some potential people exploring the site already. Why are we investing more money into it now to determine or potentially investing more money? We're not investing money right now, but why? Tell me the goal here. Why are we
Couple
redoing?
things. So right now, there's currently tens of millions of dollars still in the Fast New York program, but it is not in the budget to be reauthorized. So that money may not exist going forward outside of, maybe the next 6 to 12 months. There are significant opportunities related to target industries being semiconductor and others that the sooner this work can be done to determine, the best and highest use, as well as how some of those things can be done, we could then turn around and utilize that to help market and also make any, then be able to get some additional funding, track C, to make some of those improvements. I think that we're looking at this right now. A lot of these things, they take time, and not wanting to miss the boat related to the opportunities in front of us.
Think of it as a parallel process, right? So yeah, there's other things that are happening, right? But we don't want to wait necessarily and say those things don't happen, right? And then we're behind a couple more months by not sort of, let's run a parallel path, because it doesn't cost us anything right now to submit that letter.
And specifically, we had a study done on the wastewater treatment plant looking to turn that back into a potentially a regional wastewater treatment plant. We did not do wetland delineation, especially with the new rules as of January 125 for what's there and other things. So anybody who's going to have to develop that is going to have to do that. That is the new rules. Can't go based on the maps anymore. Everything has to just you have to treat it like there's wetlands. It's like you're guilty until proven innocent. You got to prove that there isn't wetlands there to be able to do stuff. So looking at both of those properties that we have, looking at the properties that Mike has, You know, and understanding that at one point, this was all one 430-acre parcel when this was Miller. And how can we, at least on paper, put these assets back together so that there's synergy between them, the parts are, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So I think that, you know, I think that that's sort of what we're looking at right now and that could be beneficial to entities that are looking at this right now. It's not going to work against them. This is stuff that can be beneficial to moving forward on some of the opportunities we are looking at.
If there's a limited time frame for this money, should we look at sending a letter of intent to apply for something for the Lake Ontario Industrial Park?
I don't think it's the same. I mean, not at the same. To me, this would be the higher priority right now, for
Okay.
sure. The funding that they have available is not necessarily what we would need for out there.
Okay.
Especially if you have all the infrastructure in the ground, things like that. I think it's specifically with the Riverview site. You know, the existing sewer line was sized specifically to the ethanol plant. You know, you need to understand what is there, what if something larger were to go in, what needs to be done to increase that, on the power side particularly. I think that's important there. So I wouldn't say no, I just would say I think this one, I think is a little bit higher focus right now because of the states and I'm gonna get back to what Nate said at the very beginning. The state had a meeting with us and said that this is an important site. They called a meeting.
Really?
They can't just give us money without us applying for it.
Okay, interesting.
All this sounds great. And of course, there's a lot of interest. You know, this thing was going to reopen for 3 or 4 years since we've been working on it. It went for a little bit more than what scrap metal would cost. So I'm not overly excited about the potential here, right? I mean, if there was potential, somebody would have come in and taken it over. And, you know, to throw more money into something that is just going to sit and rot away doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But I agree. We should be running parallel and make sure that we are ready if the time comes and somebody steps into it. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah, and I will just say that related to any future funding that the IDA puts in, it would have to be things that directly benefit us on our sites, not putting it into another person's property there. There's other entities that could provide funding into this project that we're having conversations with, so I'm not really concerned on that part of it, but for every dollar we put in, if it matches the dollar from the state side, that helps the overall package.
Do you know if we had grant funding in the original study that looked at the wastewater plant?
I don't believe so.
I was gonna say, I typically,
I don't believe
it's here.
We paid for that.
100%
Yeah.
funded by the IDA.
Yeah, typically, this is one of the only ways you get a program like this size. You
Right.
don't typically get a grant of this size for.
Yeah. The state has other money. They have the CFA planning feasibility study funding, but that's only up to $100,000.
Yeah, those are much smaller. And, you know, I think because this would need to be done by whoever invested it anyway, all we're doing is getting a subsidized rate or that will add value to selling it, whatever it is.
And I guess I'll just say too, from our perspective, you know, the scope of the project that we're currently, and I can't say exact dollar numbers, but we're probably looking at a scope of a project that would be between $300,000 and $350,000 total, which means that the matching dollars would be 150 to 175. And so if you're bringing 3 partners in together with funding, you know, like I said, our commitment has to be $75,000. It's in the, I'll just pay that just so you're not thinking we're putting $500,000 in. So we're in the $60,000 range.
Well, I mean, if the investment is there, I mean, obviously more money could be put in, right? If
Absolutely.
we've got some interest and there's a plan moving forward, certainly we'd want to move that forward, but I'm right.
But yeah, we're not even there yet. We just want to say,
You know.
hey, we want to make sure that all the money hasn't been spent yet and get something in the queue. So.
Okay. I'm good.
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
Tim made it. I'll second it.
Can we get, any further discussion on this? No. All right. All those in favor?
All right.
I,
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Tim and Mel.
Village of Mexico, New York Forward Award.
Yeah, I just want to, this is just an update, no vote needed on this. Just wanted to report that earlier in March, Nate and I were not lucky, but we were honored to be guests at the state's event in the village of Casanova related to DRI New York Forward Awards. We were joined at that event by legislator Bombardo and Terry Wilbur. for the Village of Mexico, being awarded $4.5 million to New York Forward. So they have, they applied 3 years. Every year they improved their application. They were funded this year. And I have been asked to, because of my position on the regional council, and the regional council sort of having the oversight over this program, to be the co-chair along with Mayor Grimshaw for this process, which will start probably in about a month and a half or so. Usually starts in like late April, early May, and we'll probably wrap up sometime around October, November. So it's great to see. I will also say that Oswego County has been sort of one of the most successful counties, probably the most successful in central New York in terms of getting their communities approved for this. So we've had 3 DRI and now 3 New York Forwards. One of the New York Forwards was a split between Hastings, Brewerton, and Cicero Brewerton down there. So it's a little bit unique, but we've been the most successful community in helping to bring that funding back to Oswego.
That's great.
So,
More to come on that, but this will also help other projects that we're involved in. It's not going to provide additional funding to the next hotel project, but it will help develop sort of that downtown corridor around that, which will make that project more valuable and sort of have synergies with everything. So exciting to see, and excited to move forward on that.
Great. Any other questions on that?
So, no, I would say if we do go into executive session, if we can keep it to the solar deviation policy, that would, because we do have guests that are trying to join from the Phoenix Oxbow Solar, then we can jump back into executive after, just so it's, if it takes an hour.
We'll go in and discuss the solar project deviation
Particular.
policy, come back out and discuss line item number 6, and then we can go back in and do 10,
Correct.
11, and
Yeah, it's not how we normally do it, but I think,
that's fine.
12. Okay. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Okay, Mark,
we explain why.
Kevin,
That'd be under Public Officers Law, Section 105. It's to discuss the financial history of a particular person or corporation.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?